Let's talk about housing in America. Not everyone can afford the American dream of owning their own home. So first, let's start the discussion how most households enter the housing market. Let's talk about renting a housing unit. Last time we talked about income disparity in the U.S. and alluded to the fact that it affects housing prices. So now let's dig into housing. Today, we will talk about rental units. According to the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey 2023, there are over 125 million housing units, of which nearly 45 million are renter-occupied. That's 35% of American households that live in a rental unit. West Virginia has the lowest percentage of renters. Only a quarter of households live in a rental unit. Whereas in the District of Columbia, nearly 60% of households rent. This is followed by New York, where over 45% of households are renters. So about twice as many households rent in New York or D.C. as they do in West Virginia, where owning your house is much more common. In the U.S., the median gross rent, that is, the middle amount paid across all renters, is $1,348 a month. This accounts for 30.2% of the household's income, which is exactly what is advised. Financial experts generally recommend spending no more than 30% of your gross income on housing, rent, or mortgage to ensure you have enough left for other essential expenses and savings. The lowest median gross rent is in West Virginia, where it is only $850, which is just over 29% of the median household income. And the highest median gross rent is in California and is a whopping $1,956 a month, which is over 32% of the household income. So, you can see that these tremendous differences in housing costs are offset by differences in income. Folks are still generally spending about 30% of their income on rent. When we look at the gross rent across the states, it is a fairly even distribution. There are 12 states with gross rent under $1,000. The largest group, those with gross rent between $1,000 and $1,250, is 17. And then there are 11 in both the $1,250 to $1,500, and those who pay over $1,500 in gross rent. North Dakota has the lowest percentage of income being spent on rent, less than 25%. Whereas Florida has the highest spending on rent, nearly 35% of their income. So next time on Let's Explore Data with Geolytics, we will look at the more differences in rent over time. Today, we continue to look into renting homes. Let's explore the differences as the owners age. When people are younger, they need to rent to build up income and savings. Thus, only 16% of households aged 15 to 24 own their house, and almost everyone rents. Over time, more and more households start buying and fewer households keep renting. The percentage of home ownership keeps increasing, decade by decade, finally peaking in those aged 75 to 84, with 80% of these seniors owning the house they live in. Even at the age of 85, there are still 71% of households living in a home they own. This table shows percent owners versus percent of renters for the different age groups. 15 to 24 years, owners 16%, renters 84%. 25 to 34 years, owners 41%, renters 59%. 35 to 44 years, owners 61%, renters 39%. 45 to 54 years, owners 69%, renters 31%. 55 to 59 years, owners 74%, renters 26%. 60 to 64 years, owners 76%, renters 24%. 65 to 74 years, owners 79%, renters 21%. 75 to 84 years, owners 80%, renters 20%. 85 years and over, owners 71%, renters 29%. This chart shows owning versus renting by age of head of household. So next time on Let's Explore Data with Geolytics, we will look at the differences in home ownership across America. Today, let's explore home ownership. About 2/3 of American households own the house they live in. This accounts for nearly 83 million households. Most people buy their house with a mortgage, a loan from a bank that is paid off over 10, 20, or often 30 years. If you are able to either buy your house with cash, no mortgage, or when you eventually pay off your mortgage, your monthly expenses go way down. You will still need to pay for utilities and property taxes, and of course there will still be repairs that need to be paid for, but this makes a big difference in monthly expenses. When we look at the median value of those units with a mortgage, $341,535, it is significantly higher than the median value of units without a mortgage, $288,329. There are several possible reasons why a mortgaged home might be worth 20% more than one without a mortgage. First, it may be that it's an older person who is selling their big house and buying a smaller one now that the kids have grown. Secondly, it may be that because it is smaller, the owner could afford it without having to get a mortgage. Remember, this is a median, which means that half of the units are less than this number and half are more than it. According to the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey 2023, nearly half of all homes with a mortgage cost between $200,000 and $500,000, and 31% cost more than $500,000. Whereas less than 40% of all homes without a mortgage cost between $200,000 and $500,000, and only 21% cost more than $500,000. There are 40% that cost less than $200,000. Today, let's explore home values across America. About 2/3 of American households own the house they live in. For most households, this is the biggest investment they will make. When we look at the median home value, we see very different numbers across the country. First, let's look at it with an even distribution by states, splitting the 51 states into 6 brackets, each containing either 8 or 9 states. This chart shows that there are 8 states with a median value in the lowest bracket from $124,600 to $199,200. And we have a nice smooth distribution. But because there are many more states at the lower end of this scale, it means that the top bucket range goes all the way from $427,600 up to $808,200. So, the range for the first group, 124 to 199, is only $75,000, but at the top end it has a span of $380,000. You can see that the higher-priced home values are along the 2 coasts, and the middle of the country has the least expensive median home values. But the colors are very evenly distributed, and so you can see that the edges are more expensive, but it's not dramatic. If, on the other hand, we decide to divide the state's median home values into even economic brackets, the picture for the exact same data looks very different. Here we take the range of a little under $700,000 and divide that into 6 equal buckets. So the first bucket is $124,600 to $238,533. A much larger range than the chart up above. When we divide the data this way, we see how very lopsided the distribution becomes. Now there are 18 states in the lowest bracket of median home values, then 17 in the next bucket, then 11. And only 5 states make it into the top 3 buckets combined, as opposed to the 46 in the lower 3 buckets. The only two states in the top bracket are California and Hawaii. And now we can see that the states with the highest median value for homes are still the West Coast. But on the East Coast, it's really concentrated in the northeastern parts, New England, and the Mid-Atlantic. Next time on Let's Explore Data with Geolytics, we will look at the differences in the types of housing across America. Today, let's explore different types of housing in America. In America, about 2/3 of households live in a single-family home. And most of these are detached homes, not row houses, which are predominantly found in urban areas. Idaho has the most households living in single-family detached housing at 74%, meaning 3 of every 4 households live in a single-family home. Whereas in the District of Columbia, only 10% live in a detached single-family home, and another 21% live in attached single-family homes, row houses. Even combined, it is about a third live in a single-family home, the others live in multi-unit buildings. The next lowest state is New York at 41%, which is a big jump. But really, this is the difference between DC, which is all an urban area, and New York, which has several cities, but also lots of suburban and rural communities. Another important predictor for whether or not you live in a single-family home is whether you are a homeowner or a renter. Homeowners are much more likely to own a single-family home, whereas renters are more likely to live in multi-unit buildings. Nationally, almost all homeowners, 88.6%, live in a single-family home, except in DC, where only 2/3 of owners live in a single-family home. 20% of households in the U.S. live in a building with 5 or more units, but these are almost all renters. But for renters, less than 1/3 live in a single-family home, and nearly half rent a unit in a building with more than 5 units. Instead of looking at where do owners versus renters live, if we look at who lives in each type of unit, we see very quickly that most single-family homes are owned and most multi-unit homes are rented. Even very small buildings are mostly rentals. As a side note, there are also 6.7 million mobile homes that are also predominantly owned. This accounts for about 6% of households who live in a mobile home. Today, let's explore household vacancies in America. In the United States, 10% of housing units are vacant. That's 14 million vacant units in a total of 145 million housing units. The lowest vacancy rate is 7% for California, Illinois, Maryland, Nebraska, New Jersey, Oregon, and Utah. And the highest vacancy is in Maine at 19%, with Vermont right behind at 18%. About a quarter of the vacant units are on the market and already vacated, just waiting to be rented or sold, but vacant at this moment. There is an additional 7% that are already rented out or sold but still vacant. This often happens when renovations are being done before moving in, or the new tenant is relocating from afar, and it takes a little while to make the move, or something like that. About a third of vacant units are seasonal, recreational, or occasional use buildings. So the unit is empty if it's not the right season to be there. Maybe it's a beach house, or it's up at the lake or in mountains. Those can be lovely in the summer or spring and fall, but maybe not used during the winter. Thus, they are seasonal. In the Northeast, this explains almost all the vacant units. In Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire, this accounts for 76%, 73%, and 67% of all vacant units. They are seasonal. But it's not just places that are too cold in the winter that are vacant. Florida is at 53% because folks often go there in the winter, so it's vacant in the summer. The last third of the vacancies are a variety of other reasons. Thank you for exploring housing in America with us. We offer a wide variety of videos with new ones coming out all the time. All of our videos are based on reports that you can run quickly and easily with our demographic data products, like the American Community Survey or estimates and projections. They include topics such as educational attainment, language spoken, income, family structure, and lots of other topics.